Hello, this is Tim Campsell with TBC Action Coach of Indiana and our Business Spotlight series. The purpose is to interview local business owners and promote them on our social channels and email database. And this is a free service we're providing because when every small business is strong, then the economy is strong. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Sherry. Welcome, Sherry. It's great to have you on the show today.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Well, hey, let's start with you introducing yourself and tell us a little bit of your story, both your personal and your professional story.
Well, my name is Sherry Borshoff. I've had that name for 30 years now, because my husband and I just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary, if
Well,
you can believe it.
congratulations.
I have two grown daughters, and I'm a tax expert. In fact, I'm Indiana's tax expert. I've been interviewed on Fox 59 a few times for my tax expertise, and so yeah, that's who I am. What I do is taxes, everything taxes, take taxes off small business owners' plates so they can do what they're good at without having to worry about getting into trouble with the IRS. I also help folks get out of trouble if they try to go it alone and didn't quite know what they were doing, and now the IRS or the state is pounding on their door. Or rather, I usually say hate mail. They're getting hate mail from the government agencies. Then I can help them resolve those issues and also help them put them on a track where, once you've gotten out of that hole, you want to fill it in. You don't want to go back into that hole. So admittedly, sometimes it's a long process of getting those things resolved, but it is doable. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to have some patience for it, especially these days with COVID upsetting the balance of everything. The IRS is far, far behind right now in processing. They're still processing 2019 late filed returns, which, if you remember, that didn't end until July. And then, of course, people also had September and October tax returns, which, so for the late filers. And so they're still working through those, and at the same time trying to stay on top of the new filings. And then we had the American Rescue Plan, which kind of came like smack in the middle of busy season, that changed a great number of the rules. I won't say it changed all the rules, but it changed a good enough number of the rules that, have people calling me up and saying, I heard on the news that my unemployment tax isn't taxable now. What do I do about that? How do I get that money back? And it took them a little while, but the IRS finally said, don't file amended returns. We're gonna fix that and send out the refunds. So they have a lot on their plate. I just, I feel for the people that work there, because there is a lot, and I know they're understaffed too. They've been understaffed since before COVID.
So Sherry, how long have you been in business for yourself?
I started this adventure in 2011. 2009, I was downsized from a corporate controllership job that I had with a large electrical contracting company. And they had a lot of eggs in the Lilly basket. So when Lilly did a big reorganization in 2009, a lot of the subcontractors were rethought, and without that revenue coming in, the conversation was that they couldn't afford my salary. They'd be happy to keep me on and put me in a field job, but just doing bookkeeping was really under my skill set.
Sure.
Below my skill set. So I opted to say, okay, just give me some good references and I'll go out and see what else there is out there.
Mhm.
So it took me a while. I did do one job for a restaurant supply company that I knew of. And it was a financial analysis type of a job where he was a single sole owner of an S corp,
Mm.
and he was getting to where he wanted to retire and sell his business, and he had a good viable saleable business, but he needed a lot of metrics. And I figured out about myself that I didn't love doing that because I had to be secretive with the people in the company that I was interviewing about why I was asking all the questions I was asking. And I'm just not a duplicitous person. So there's that. And then I got to thinking, there are a lot of small businesses out there who could use the skills that I have, but don't have the resources to put somebody on in that accounting role or that controllership role or that tax professional role, even full time. So I started out, really, my business plan was essentially to be an outsourced CFO.
Okay.
And then it just kind of really migrated more into, well, if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do taxes. And well, if I'm going to do taxes, then I'm going to do tax resolution. And if I'm going to do, bookkeeping and payroll services, those are both mechanisms for the taxes to be done timely and correctly. So, it kind of shaped my business model as I went along.
Sure.
But it was a leap, I'll tell you, because my husband's self-employed. He's a health insurance agent, and he's been self-employed since we got married.
Okay.
Before we got married, even. So, going from that, I'm going to have a regular W-2 job where I get a regular paycheck to, sitting in my newly formed business office thinking, okay, now where do I get clients?
Yeah. So to
And
that point, Carrie, what is your ideal client? Who's your best customer, or what we call a target audience?
well, I love them all, it just have that entrepreneurial spirit and that desire to do things in the right way, in the right time is key. I have a lot of experience in restaurants and construction, and in the last year or two, I really developed a good relationship with a lot of doctors' offices, specialty doctors' offices, dentists, optometrists. I had one of my optometrists tell me one time, and I want to use it in my advertising somehow. He said, I'd rather stick a fork in my eye than do what you do for us. And I'm like, well, that's telling, being that you're an optometrist, But so, I mean, I don't turn anybody away. I always talk to anyone who's interested in starting or in getting their business to more efficiencies.
Mhm.
I do have a strong cost accounting background because of my, I was a controller for Clancy's Incorporated for 7 years.
Okay.
And they had 22 restaurants at the time. So very cost accounting centric,
Mhm.
And then the Indianapolis Electric, of course, you have to do cost accounting when you're doing many projects.
Sure.
And especially when you're working with Eli Lilly and Company, you have to be really audit centric. Because, and that's, so when somebody works with me, that's what they get, is somebody who's thinking, now if I'm an IRS auditor or a revenue officer, what would I ask for? And then I make sure that the client has that readily available somewhere, easily accessible. So,
so Sherry, what's been the greatest impact that COVID's had on your business?
well, luckily with COVID, I was already in the process of setting up a virtual private network so that I could hire a remote workforce or more remote workforce people. And so the timetable got a little accelerated with getting all that in place when COVID hit, and now we're all quarantined, and then all my people who are normally in the office have to work from home.
Right.
So, but we transitioned really well.
Yeah.
Zoom, I wish I'd have bought stock in Zoom before COVID hit. It's just made it easy to offer that ability to meet with clients where they don't have to come in.
Right.
The irony of it is that my clients who are older and probably in the more prominent risk factor don't embrace the technology. So they want to still come in and bring me all their documents and sit down across from me and ask me all their questions. And I'm not opposed to that when it's not mandated that you can't do that, because there was a period of time where it's like you just can't meet with people. But so we put a lot of protocols in place to keep everybody safe. And of course, we've recently relaxed some of those. We don't have to wear masks every time somebody comes in now.
So
We've
Sherry,
all been vaccinated.
we've all
So
had to pivot during the past
we
year
have.
to figure out
We
how to
have.
make the business work. So what's one big change that you had to make, or that you made to pivot, and how's that been working for you?
I can't specifically point to one big change. I mean, like I said, I was already in the process of supplying things. I supply a secure file portal for clients to communicate with me through, and I implemented a tax firm specific firm management software that has this portal capability. And I always suggest to clients, not all of them follow the instructions, but I say, don't email me that. You either need to bring it into the office or you need to scan it, take a picture of it, however you can get a good, clear image of it, and upload that to the portal, because the last thing I want is some hacker getting into email. And I have all of the safeguards in place, but I can't safeguard the whole internet.
Right.
So from when that packet leaves your computer to when it arrives at mine, I have no control over.
Yep.
And so, that's using the secure portal is a great way of communicating with the clients and getting the documents that I need to do my job, or that my bookkeepers need to do their jobs.
Right.
Of course, QuickBooks Online has a great feature where you can upload the app on your phone, and you can take pictures of receipts that attach. Right. So there are a lot of great tools out there, and I just part of my job. I mean, if anything, for me, COVID increased my clientele base.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Because of the necessity of needing those books in order to be able to apply for the PPP loans, or knowing how to apply for the PPP loans. I sent a lot of people over to the guys at the bank that I got my SBA through, loan through. And so those calls came in, and then, of course, questions about the COVID relief, other COVID relief packages that are out there. And I always encourage questions, but other than the 30-minute interview that I supply to potential new clients, complimentary, I got to charge for my time. So, I'm pretty upfront with people about that, and whether or not it's in their best interest to continue to want to consult with me, because I have to charge you my hourly rate, and it's not necessarily cheap, because I put a lot of time and effort into being the expert. And that's to say too, that I don't know everything. Sometimes I have to go research before I give you an answer, because, in a perfect world, I would just have this downloadable brain, but
So Sherry, here's an interesting question. It's been said that smart
excuse
people
me.
learn from their mistakes and wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So what's a mistake you've made along the way that you'd be willing to share to help other entrepreneurs learn from your experience?
Well, I'd already been running other people's companies for a while. So for me, I kind of knew about the ins and outs of all the things that I had to consider, especially tax-wise, for starting a small business, a service-based small business. Some of the things that, had I done differently, I would have spent maybe a little bit more time thinking through my business plan, because like I told you before we started, my business plan morphed as things started to expand. And so my advice to an entrepreneur is get a good grip on the services or products that you want to supply, and concentrate on those and get really good at those. And then if down the road you want to add some more, then you can modify your business plan. But don't try to just be all things to all people off the bat, So I guess if there's a lesson that I learned, it was like, don't try to be all things to all people off the bat. But I get to the process of, you're just kind of in a position when you're starting a new business that you're just like, I'm just looking for anybody who's willing to pay me to do some work, So, but it pays to be a little bit pickier, about who you take on as a client. And those I've developed those throughout my, I guess 10 years now. Wow. 10 years of being a small business owner. It's kind of surreal, because I'm like, I don't know where the 10 years went, but I know there's been lots of ups and downs. There's always feast and famine. And when I talk about that, I talk, a lot about cash flow. Even accountants have cash flow situations that we're like, okay, how am I paying payroll this week? Where can I borrow that from?
So Sherry, second last question here. We're going to include your email and your website and contact information along with this video so that folks can reach out to you. And is there anything else that you want to make sure that we cover today?
Well,
any type of offer?
I kind of covered it, because I get on my soapbox and I start rambling, and I'm pretty passionate about,
you mentioned that
having
30-minute consultation. Tell the audience a little bit more about that.
Oh, for potential new clients, I do offer a complimentary 30-minute consultation. It's more of an interview, really. You interview me, I interview you, find out what your situation looks like, find out what you're looking to get out of the relationship with me, talk a little bit about what my fee structure and pricing might look like for you, and then we talk about doing onboarding questionnaires and doing an engagement agreement. And once the engagement agreement is executed, then of course it's all billable time from there. So you have to be really careful about explaining to people when they just call you up and they want to talk to you for an hour. Well, an hour is billable,
Right.
But I do tell folks, all my clients, because I want to encourage them to ask the questions before they make a detrimental decision, especially if it might impact their tax situation. Like, just email me, text me, or call me. And if if it is something, I'm sorry, I went to the dentist and it's like, now my throat's really dry. But I get a handle on this. If it's something that is actually simple and I can say, yes, you should do that. No, you should not do that. And here's why. Or, I mean, if it takes less than 15 minutes, I'm not even going to start the clock.
Right.
But once that clock is started, billable hours are billed in increments of a quarter an hour, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Got it.
I would encourage anybody who wants to set up an appointment with me to go to my website, www.borshoffconsulting.com, and go to the contact me page and contact me. And there is either a link to my Calendly or I can email you the link to my Calendly if you put your information in there.
Perfect. Fantastic. So last question here, Sherry. Tell me what's been most inspiring to you during all of the craziness of the past year?
Well, if the past year has taught me anything, it's that you have to remain flexible. You know, I miss my social time with folks who aren't part of my immediate family. I love to spending the time with my immediate family in quarantine. So, you know, I try to be a really grounded person, you know, in being grateful for all the things that we do have and not looking on the negative side of things. So I think COVID has taught me, you know, that that's very important to be grateful and to be cognizant of what people, especially those that you associate with outside your immediate family, be they friends or business associates or networking advocates, partners, whatever you choose to call them. Those are important relationships, and maintaining those relationships have been difficult during COVID. Of course, we get to do the Zoom meetings and stuff, but I was even at a meeting recently where it's like everybody looks different because I'm used to seeing you on Zoom, and it's almost like I didn't recognize you when you walked in person. Right. So that's my takeaway from COVID is that, you know, one, you have to be flexible and be willing to maintain those relationships, however the means apply. And be grateful for the time that you get to spend one-on-one in person with people, because that's one of the big things that I wouldn't even have thought, especially 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would miss that because I'm an introvert. Naturally, I'm an introvert, but it doesn't mean that I'm antisocial. It just means that I'm reserved, you know. And so just making sure that you maintain those ties with people and that you let them know that they are still important to you, even though you can't be with them in person. One of the hardest things for my husband, I'll say, is his mother's in a nursing care facility. Sorry. And we couldn't visit her for a long time. And so you kind of get to where you miss that. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That does conclude the interview. For those listening, if you've heard something that sparks your interest, that you would like to talk to Sherry, please take advantage of that complimentary 30 minutes. Reach out to her, book some time on her calendar. Again, we'll provide that contact information along with this video, and see how Sherry can help you in your business. For everyone that appears on the show, we do offer a complimentary coaching session. So Sherry will talk about that offline. It's been a pleasure learning about you today, Sherry. I appreciate your
Thank
time and
you.
wish you tremendous success.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
You too.